So yeah, my name's Daniel Gray. I'm what George referred to as too cool for school. I dropped out of Trinity College after a year, so it's really nice to be behind a lectern at 23. That's the magazine I run. It's called Totally Dublin. Teresa referred to it as one of the only culture magazines. It's the only culture magazine in print. Sorry, no, it's not. GCN is. We're the only free sheet left in Dublin that's dealing with culture, and at this point we're really the only magazine in print that still deals with Dublin culture. So as you might have picked up, also I have a tendency to talk really quickly, which is hopefully going to work to my benefit today. So it's a very good time for somebody like me, as Dublin's going through a period of self-obsession. Recently I compiled a special edition of the Irish Times magazine. It was titled The Best of Dublin, so I am partly responsible for the rampant narcissism. This is a map of Dublin that I commissioned from our very talented illustrator Fuchsia Macquarie. This is a map that I didn't commission, that somebody else did 2 weeks later. This is a map that Fuchsia also was commissioned to do that I didn't commission her to do. This is the Pivot Dublin design map. This is the story map. So we're getting obsessed with maps. I think that drawing maps embodies this kind of search for a permanence, and for a search for some kind of notion of abstract cohesive identity, which is a product of the crash and of catastrophe. We're trying to re-find ourselves. So the recession was kind of like being the bold boy put in the corner. I think that finally we're finished with the self-meditation and we're starting to actually act on some of the things that we've learned. So one of the main cultural bugbears from the crash was the ownership and use of public space, or the poor use of already established public space. So here's another map, kind of. This is Dominic Street Lower. I don't know if anybody knows about the project that's almost finished here at the minute. It's being run by Upstart. They are developing through public funding and I think some help from the City Council. They're developing a park for the local community and also for other for creative people to come and engage with that local community also. There's going to be theatre, arts, live music and stuff in this park for I think 5 or 6 weeks. There's also going to be educational facilities, which I think is pretty significant. So just around the corner from there, another map. This is near where I live. We mentioned earlier Parnell Square. I live on North Great Georgia Street, but Parnell Square is really socially interesting in that it's this kind of pivot between the Chinatown community to the east, the Brazilian and African community to the west, and then the kind of the older, lower income Dublin bracket up to the north. So there's this interesting space, this interesting potential for this space to be an area of intercultural dialogue, which probably sounds a bit buzzwordy, but what we're doing, well, what's hopefully going to happen here is I think this is going to be the new central library instead of being in Illac Centre. This is the Hugh Lane Gallery already. We'll ignore chapter 1. I think the Dublin Writers Museum might be moving out. There's this whole area that has the potential to create some space that I can't say that I actually know what it is, but some sort of space where these various cultures and these various income brackets and people from various backgrounds can come and create something and mingle. And I think that maybe the cornerstone for that would be education or creation. Just from talking to Dublin City architect Ali Graham recently, I came up with the idea of this. These buildings are 20 and 21, so I have the idea that this could be the 2021 project. So I figured that if we got 15-year-olds now and start teaching them skills that aren't necessarily available to them, such as design or architecture or basic technology, that in 5 years' time they come back and revisit the space of what they've achieved in that time, and there might be some kind of glimpse into what a future multicultural Dublin might look like. Here is Block T, or the former probationary office. So this is kind of part of the stuttering into life that Smithfield is undergoing at last. Block T is an almost entirely self-funded reappropriation of that old building. It's turning into this thriving community, sort of like the Fumbly, of startup entrepreneurs, artists and creatives, which has given itself the goal of filling I think there's 6 stories in it. There's a basement also, and this fantastic terrace up the top. I think 2 of the floors are finished at the minute. But I think through like a mixture of stuff like hot desking and creative dialogue, market space, gentle mentoring, that this is one of the many places that are starting to pop up that could become powerhouse of new ideas and a kind of cross-pollination of ideas. Fellow urban knight Andrew Douglas is spearheading our aquaponic allotment revolution with Urban Farm on King's Inn Street. So this is DIY culture at its most practical. So it's a combination of sustainability, education, community self-sufficiency, and really nice food. So it's any urban utopian's wet dream. Other communities like Radical Growth are also spearheading this shift from ownership to sharing, not just sharing space, but sharing skills, sharing tools, and sharing information. I think also when we talk about the potential for an intercultural dialogue, these are the kind of spaces where kind of polyculture has the opportunity to bloom. Sorry, pardon the pun. This concept of a third space is really coming into fruition in a space like Maybos on Hanover Quay. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. It's the old Rally Bikes building that's being transformed by this guy Dave, who runs the Kings of Concrete Skate Festival. He's transformed it with the help of people way younger than him and way less experienced than him. He's transformed it into this space where you get like you get South American teens building balcony gardens for the old community in the Rings End Flats, and you get Google office workers playing Nintendo Wii with skateboarders, and you get wakeboarders learning how to use Microsoft Excel. I think what's really impressive about Maybos is it's got a fundamental lack of planning to it, which I think is a real lesson for an age of hyperactivity, and an age of peer-to-peer education. Unfortunately, and maybe someone from the City Council can correct me on this, but unfortunately I think there's a strategic development zone order or something to that description on all of Hanover Quay, which means that all that work could be just taken away from them pretty soon. But I think this is a real opportunity for the civic authority to take a non-prescriptive and more flexible approach to policy making, which they're hoping is going to achieve what is already being achieved here organically. Okay, so these are the success stories: community engagement, public engagement. And this place, by the way, is a really good example of public engagement, and I think that its recent international networking plan is testament to that. We talked about cultural and entrepreneurial spirit, but there's still problems that we have to negotiate. I think mainly there's, on a really profound social level, no matter how far we've progressed within the city, there's still huge barriers that still stand between economic classes, and there's a large portion of this city that don't have any entry points into civic and cultural engagement, and we risk at the moment some ghettoization and on several fronts. And the suburbs are, on the whole, completely separate entities to the city that we don't count as vital parts or even parts at all of our urban identity. And I think that's something that's going to need to be addressed over time. And now I'm going to finish by talking about my own profession, because that's the only slide I have left. So more and more media sources, I think, due to fragmentation and due to specialization through the internet, are starting to band into networks. The journal.ie is a good example, and this kind of Lacool, broadsheet, Neither Nine conglomerate. I see this as the probable avenue of evolution into a new media establishment, while older media establishments are kind of balancing this tightrope between diversification and a kind of retention of their original identity and purpose. There's this common view that magazines in this age exist as either information filters or as aggregators, which I think is a really soulless and post-technological way of thinking about things. Totally Dublin aims to have an agency in the real world to affect some kind of change through criticism of broken or underperforming systems, and to foster a relationship between the public and the cultural exponents that aim to represent it, to support and foster creativity and to see into the future and kind of tell as accurate a horoscope as we can.